Another thing I wanted to talk about were experimental builds for Fu Xuan. And so yesterday I saw a video from a streamer named
Server's
Gladius
still not open.
who made a Fu Xuan build guide video that was very beautifully done, but was a bit questionable in some of the suggestions. For one, he didn't even mention that you could build Fu Xuan as a DPS. Now, I have to say that even on the Fu Xuan mains subreddit, there are a lot of people who think that Fu Xuan DPS is fake, which seems kind of weird to me because she has 18% crit rate traces, so she's obviously designed to be doing some damage. Obviously, she's not gonna do hyper carry type damage. You cannot turn her into a hyper carry, but you can definitely add some numbers. She's definitely gonna be better than your regular abundance or harmony character with her damage. So he was kind of saying, I give you the best build, and he didn't even mention DPS, that is a possibility. And he also made some claims that I would call experimental, because they haven't actually been tested. And he's saying, for example, that Passerby is 2-piece is her best set, because Passerby gives a 10% healing boost, outgoing healing boost, which when she uses her big 90% heal, when she drops under 50%, that would heal her to full health. Now, she's already healing 90% from 50%, so she would go up back to 95%. So I don't really see that extra 10% healing buff is gonna make the huge difference between you wiping or not. And I honestly think that a 2-piece HP set is more valuable because, for one, it gives you DPS, 2, it gives you tankiness, and I think the 12% HP would make up for the 10% healing boost. So I don't really see how he thinks that is the best one. And a lot of people, so this is, I didn't make this post, but people were discussing, and it's kind of questionable, like what is on the y-axis, and he has like a lot of graphs and says he did the math, but he doesn't show the math so people can think for themselves. So it was kind of I mean, I don't want to say he's wrong or anything, because this is like something that hasn't been tested. But if you're making a Fu Xuan build guide and it's the best build guide, or you're making that claim, then you might want to show how you got to that conclusion. And I honestly don't think that healing her to 100% instead of 95% is making that big of a difference. Now, that being said, I am a little bit salty because a few days ago, where is it? I made a post about an experimental idea for putting an outgoing healing chest on Fu Xuan. So to give some background, on my main account, I have a crit damage chest on her. So if I switch out, if I have trouble in MOC with solo sustaining, and I switch out her crit damage chest for an outgoing healing chest, I wanted to discuss, like, would that be helpful? And most people were just saying, no, you're stupid. And they basically said, no, why would you switch out an HP chest for an outgoing healing chest? HP is way better. And first of all, I would be switching a crit damage chest, so it wouldn't be really hurting me in terms of HP. The second thing is what most people argued was, well, her ultimate heal is 5% of her max damage. If her max damage is 8,000, which is when most people are, like on the Fu Xuan sub, most people think 8,000 is like what you need for her to be a solo sustain. If she has 8,000, and you use her, so her ultimate heals 5% of her max HP to the party members, which is about 400 HP, which doesn't sound like much. And then you add a crit, not a crit damage, a outgoing healing chest. Then you have maybe 530 HP heals, which people were saying, well, that's complete dog shit. Why would you do that? And I was thinking that's not really the case, because with Fu Xuan on your team, 530 HP is 2 to 3 times worth the HP. And this is also, there was another post today, I didn't make this post, but somebody else was also arguing this. Fu Xuan's healing is surprisingly good. They had like a different calculation where they said her HP healing would be 458 HP, and they're also arguing that because Fu Xuan mitigates 65% of your team's damage, the HP from your, like the 2,000, 3,000 HP from your buffers and DPS are actually worth effectively more like 2 to 3 times that much HP, which also means that when you're healing, and like I mentioned, if you add a healing chest, you might have 530 HP. That 530 HP is suddenly worth over 1,000 HP.
Server's still not open.
And then you may not be as good as an abundance character, but you're getting a lot of value out of that healing for the party members. And I do have to say that wasn't
Server's still not open.
Gladius wasn't concerned about party-wide healing. He actually said, don't put on a healing chest because you don't want to overheal. So he was only concerned about Fu Xuan's own HP, which I'm not that concerned about. For me, it was about party members. And that's another thing of debate in the sub is, who are you worried about dying? Most people think that logically it should be Fu Xuan you're concerned about dying because she takes all that damage. But we've seen leaked videos where Fu Xuan has no problem sustaining herself, and she gets to 50, she heals back up, and she has no problem. It's really easy for her. But her teammates, the ones that are really squishy, like a 2,000 HP Pela or Tingyun, they're dropping into the red zone, and they're all surviving, but it gets like in a dangerous area. And in that situation, this is, of course, it doesn't really make logically sense, but somehow that's what's happening. At least in these leaks, that's what's happening, that the team members are actually having some they're getting more damage than is getting healed. So I think in that situation, maybe a healing chest, an outgoing healing chest, could save your party members, provided that you don't, you're not giving a up HP for Fu Xuan, or not a big amount, and or she's still good, like fine in sustaining herself. But if you have trouble just with your team members dying on you, then maybe an outgoing healing chest would make her able to solo sustain and be like a third-rate healer. Like she doesn't do Luocha level heals, obviously. She doesn't do that, but 5% of her max HP is still with 32% HP from the healing boost, 32% outgoing healing boost. It could potentially be saving some of your party members. Now, I don't have any evidence for those claims. I don't have a beta account. I don't know how to hack into the game to play with characters that I don't have yet. So I can't actually test this theory. And the people who are leaking, they're not testing that theory. They're usually using the types of builds that most people are using, which is the pure tank or the sub DPS build. And so we won't actually know whether this works until we get Fu Xuan and we can try it out. Another option that was mentioned in the comments was not when I brought it up with switching the chest piece, was that you could this could potentially enable a Fu Xuan Jingliu team, because so Jingliu's kit is to absorb HP from her team members. She takes 4% of HP from her team members and turns that into damage. So Jingliu is constantly hurting the team members. I don't think you can shield that. She would still take the HP away. And people think that's not going to work with Fu Xuan because or not with Fu Xuan as a solo sustain. People think that you need a healer with Jingliu because Jingliu is constantly taking HP away from the party members. Now, if you put an outgoing healing chest on Fu Xuan, and she does have a heal that is 5% of her max HP, Jingliu takes 4% of the HP of that person. So, for example, if Tingyun has 2000 HP, Jingliu will take 4% of 2000 HP, and then Fu Xuan will heal 5% of her own HP. So she will heal Tingyun 5% of 8000 HP. So in theory,
server's still not open.
Fu Xuan should be able to at least negate the damage that Jingliu is doing to her own team. Now, the problem with the Jingliu team is not just Jingliu taking HP away, but there are also enemies that are also taking damage away. So the question is, can Fu Xuan sustain the team if they both get damage from Jingliu and the enemies? And that's another question we haven't really answered, but it could be experimented with. If you put an outgoing healing chest on Fu Xuan and you turn that 400 HP heal into a 530 HP heal, considering that she takes 65% of the enemy damage, does that make it work? Does that make Jingliu work? And that's something I can't test right now. I could maybe, I'm hoping that I could get both Fu Xuan and Jingliu on my alt account, and I would test that out. But I don't know if that's going to happen because that's a free-to-play account. I don't know if I get both of them. But people who have both of them, for other reasons, because some people want Fu Xuan for Mono Quantum and then Jingliu because waifu, or they want Jingliu for another team or something. They might have both, and they could test this out. But so far, most people agree you can't run Jingliu with just Fu Xuan, and you need a healer. I think it's worth experimenting with Fu Xuan and Jingliu if you could make that work. With Fu Xuan as a solo sustain, if Fu Xuan has an outgoing healing burst shirt on. So that's what I wanted to say about that. I'm glad my microphone is still on. Okay. And there was something else I wanted to discuss, and that is Silverwolf. What does Fu Xuan do for Silverwolf? I want to argue that E1 Fu Xuan plus Bronya, and you can also use Wukong, which everybody has access to Wukong because you get a free copy of Wukong from the Xianzhou Forgotten Hall. E1 Fu Xuan plus Bronya or Wukong can turn E0 Silverwolf into a DPS. And now, why am I talking about this? I was thinking about this because I've been thinking about that for my own alt account. So I have E0... Okay. I have E0 Silverwolf on my alt account. I have her... Silverwolf is my favorite character. I want to main her. I want her as a DPS. And I have her E6 S1 on my main account, but I don't spend money on this account, and I only got her to E0, and like on the very last day I got a copy of her, and I was happy that I even got a copy. I am a little sad though, because I really like using her as a DPS, and she's not really able to DPS at E0. Typically, what people argue about why people typically say E2, when you have her Eidolon 2, is when you can build her as a DPS. And that's when an enemy enters battle, reduces their effect res by 20%. I don't know the exact math behind that, but if you add this 20% effect res, it somehow equals out, so you need 50% less effect hit rate. And for an E0 and E1 Silverwolf build, you need 97% effect hit rate, whereas for an E2 build, you only need 47% effect hit rate. And because you only need so much less effect hit rate, that you can focus on other substats or stats, which people use to build her as a DPS unit. And this is kind of... I'm in strong denial that she's an E0 because I want her to be super strong and kill everything. But she's not. And right now, I have a I have this... mono quantum set on her. I actually have an S level effect hit rate break effect set for her, but I gave that to Serval once I got Kafka, and now I'm putting a quantum set on her. I don't even have an effect hit rate chest. I probably should be putting that on her. Right now she has a crit damage chest, because I'm so in denial, and she has 167% crit damage, which with only 22.8% crit rate, which is laughable. This is bad. I know it's bad. Like, she's not gonna do damage because she rarely ever crits, and then her effect hit rate is not enough to consistently yes, but not 100%. She can't put the weakness of break, the elemental weakness on the enemy 100%. You need 97% effect hit rate to do that. So I need to get her an effect hit rate chest to make her functional. But I'm in denial, and I really want her to be a sub DPS, or a DPS or whatever. I want her to do big damage. I want her to be kind of my main. But right now I can't do that because I need to get her an affected rate chest, and then she'll only has 100 crit damage with 22.8% crit rate, and that's just laughable, and it doesn't do good damage. Now, here's the thing. E1 Fu Xuan. Where's my... So, let's look at E1 Fu Xuan. All units with knowledge increase their damage by crit damage by 30%. So knowledge is the state that her skill puts on her party members. So whenever she uses her skill for 3 turns, the party members have the knowledge effect on them, and the knowledge effect causes 30% crit damage. But not just that. Activates Matrix of Prescience, and this will cause the damage mitigation. But also, while affected by Matrix of Prescience, all team members gain the knowledge effect, which increases their respective max HP. Wait, let me put this the skill on level 10. Max HP by 6% of Fu Xuan's max HP, and increase crit rate by 12%. So she gives 12% crit rate even at E0, and then at E1 she gives 30% crit damage, which some people argue it's not worth it. I think that's fantastic. I think this basically turns her into Bronya Light, because Bronya's ultimate gives 50% crit damage, and this is 30% crit damage. So you basically, E1 turns her into a pretty good Harmony character. And this is constant. Bronya's ults only gives she only gives the 50% crit damage when she ults. This is the entire time, basically. This should be on your characters. So this gives 30% crit damage and 12% crit rate. And then, so my argument is that you can add Bronya or Wukong. So let's do a little bit of math. So Fu Xuan E1 gives 30% crit damage. Then you put a broken keel on Fu Xuan, and that gives another 10% crit damage. Now you have 40% crit damage. And then you add Bronya to the team. Her ult gives another 50% crit damage. And if you put another broken keel on Bronya, that's another 10% crit damage. So effectively, you gain 100% crit damage for your entire team. And also, if you don't have Bronya, because Bronya is not everyone has Bronya, you can also use Wukong, and everybody should have Wukong, because Wukong, you get a free copy of her from doing the Forgotten Hall in Xianzhou. So Wukong has Roaring Bowstrings is the effect that her skill applies, and her ultimate, if Roaring Bowstrings is active on Wukong when her ultimate is used, additionally increases all allies' crit rate by 21 to 29.4% and crit damage by 39 to 70.2% crit damage, depending on how you have her leveled. And I mean, this is even better than Bronya, to be honest. But a lot of people don't want to use Wukong. They think she's hard to speed tune, because most people want her to be faster than the DPS, and the DPS is super fast and keeps changing how fast they are, and you cannot speed tune her because she only gives 2 stacks of her Roaring Bowstring, and if the DPS is not too, like, in the one of the 2 characters that come after her, the DPS doesn't get the Roaring Bowstrings. Now, that being said, I don't do that. I just have Wukong go very slow and make her only speed tune her to be slightly lower than the healer or healer or tank. In this case, the sustained would be Fu Xuan. So you would want Fu Xuan, let's say Fu Xuan, you want her to be 134. Let's say you put her at 135, and then put Wukong at 134, Fu Xuan should always go in front of Wukong, especially because with Fu Xuan, her
Server's
matrix
still
of
not open.
prescience, her matrix of prescience prevents crowd control, so Wukong shouldn't get crowd controlled, and the turn order shouldn't be messed up, and which other healers like that reactively heal, what's it called? Cleanse. That reactively cleanse. Once you get
Server's still
CC'd,
not
your turn
open.
order is messed up. With Fu Xuan, she prevents the crowd control, so the turn order shouldn't be messed up in her case, and so Wukong should go after her, and then that means if she goes right after Fu Xuan, then a new round starts, and the next two people that are going are the DPS and the sub DPS or buffer. So this all goes on her
Server's still not open.
to the right people if you do it like I said. Anyways, so back to my argument about E1 Fu Xuan plus Bronya turns E0 Silverwolf into a DPS. So for me, that would work. If I take her crit damage chest away and replace it with an affected rate chest, so she can do the job she's supposed to do, which is to apply elemental weakness, she would only have 100 crit damage. But adding the 100% crit damage from E1 Fu Xuan and Bronya, suddenly she has
Server's still not
200% crit damage. She gets 12% crit damage from Fu Xuan, which is still a bit low. But if I can get a few, for example, if I throw Cell Soto on her or get a few crit rate rolls, I could maybe get this over 50%. Or if I run, instead of Bronya, I run Wukong, I also get a bit of crit rate, and then I might have 50% crit rate and 200% crit damage, and then she's a viable DPS
Server's still
unit.
not open.
Now, when I put that out on Reddit, everyone was like, no, you're stupid because nobody's gonna pull E1 if they have E0, which I guess you don't, I will do. But also,
Server's
like a
still
lot of
not
people, they
open.
just don't want Silverwolf. They don't want to use Silverwolf as a DPS. Like, why would I make Silverwolf her DPS? I have other DPS. Now, for me, I only have Kafka. I don't have anyone for the second team. So what I would actually do in my team comp is I would have a mono-quantum team, or quasi-mono-quantum with a buffer from a different element, and then have Silverwolf. Let me drink some water. Have Silverwolf and Jingliu. And my Jingliu also has a terrible build on her. I mean, Silverwolf always gets the better pieces, so basically, if Silverwolf looks bad, then Jingliu definitely looks bad. My Jingliu also
Today's fortune is
doesn't have great crit damage, has
not
just
good
tiny...
for work or
I think she's
overtime.
actually wearing a crit damage chest and still has very little crit damage. So she definitely needs more crit rate, needs more crit damage. But she's also... I haven't, like, leveled anything here. Does any of that... Yeah, this is useless. This one might level better. But yeah, so my Jingliu also, like, my Jingliu is, I don't have E4, which you kind of need to make her your hyper carry DPS. E4 to E6 is what people want to make her hyper carry. I cannot use her as a hyper carry. My Jingliu is kind of shitty. And my Silverwolf, I'm in denial that she's not a DPS, she's E0. But if I put them together, and I have E1 Fu Xuan, with either Bronya or Wukong, and they both have broken keel, I get 100 crit damage. So then I have 200 or over 200 crit damage, and I can get the crit rate to 50 and also do that for Jingliu. Now I have a dual carry team. I don't have a hyper carry, and I also want to add, if you do have a hyper carry mono quantum team, so for example, if you have Fu Xuan, Silverwolf, and Seele, and you're like, why would I want Silverwolf to be DPS when I have Seele? Well, Silverwolf is still a debuffer, so you might still want to run Silverwolf with Seele anyway. So it wouldn't hurt to get all that crit damage for her and just have Silverwolf be super busted and have Seele be super busted and just delete everything on contact. Now, for my team, this is free to play. I started this account after Seele dropped, so unfortunately I didn't get Seele. I only have Kafka as a 5-star DPS, and I have to, for a mono quantum team, I would have to make do with Jingliu and Silverwolf. So for me, this seems like a really viable solution to get E1 Fu Xuan. Now, of course, that's if I can pull E1 Fu Xuan, because I have to say I don't have. I have 149 tickets worth of Stellar Jades, and then I have another 20 tickets saved up, so I have 169 tickets. I could definitely get to 180 tickets. If I win both 50-50s, I could get E1 Fu Xuan, and then that's exactly what I would do. Now, with this being a free-to-play account, I probably won't be spending money on, or not free to play, but I do buy like the battle pass, but I probably won't be spending money on like oneric shards or something like that. So in that scenario, I'm hoping that I can win both 50-50s and get E1 Fu Xuan and turn my Silverwolf into a DPS, and Jingliu, make her a little bit more viable than she is right now. I'm a whale. Oh, hey, Momo, I didn't realize you were here. You can do the math. I'm gonna just sit here and take some coffee. I didn't even realize you were here. Hey, what's up? Anyways, yeah, so on this account, I probably wouldn't be spending money on Fu Xuan. But I have more Stellar Jades on my other account, so I won't be... I don't know if it would still be considered whaling, depending on how much I have to spend to get Fu Xuan to E6. But yeah, I'll definitely open my wallet for Fu Xuan on my main account, but on this account, I might just... If I get E1 and I can get Silverwolf... just listening to you explain stuff, yeah. Yeah, I really like Silverwolf. She's my favorite, and I want her to be a DPS, and I think that Fu Xuan can make that possible. Of course, you could use other solutions, like if you have Bronya and Wukong, you could kind of do it, but the thing with Fu Xuan is because her E1 goes with Matrix of Prescience, and you always want that Matrix of Prescience to be up, you would always have that buff. Whereas Bronya and Wukong, that buff only comes when you have your ultimate. So I think it's very worth it. But that's your decision whether you think that's worth it, whether you think you would get an E1 for a character if you're free to play, or whether you would rather spend that on another character. For me, I think it's worth it, even for free to play. Anyways, so I did talk about my experimental ideas for Fu Xuan. One was the healing chest. If you have if your party members drop below health, and then the other one would be to turn Silverwolf into a DPS unit. So yeah, those were my two ideas. I should probably do some actual streaming of the game right now.